we just finished a 2-hour marathon of a webinar where my head of research, John, spent those 2 hours uncovering the most important things to really understand about how to look at the property market, and not just look at the property market, but make decisions to make you a better investor. So without further ado, I'm going to summarize the top 5 things we talked about in this webinar. So the first thing is all about how to understand that data is inherently inaccurate. And you might find that surprising, but it's really important to understand this because we shouldn't take everything at face value. And John does an amazing explanation on why this is the case.
My question to you guys is, which one of these do you actually believe is the correct median house price? It all depends on which one you want to look at to create your own narrative. I see a lot of these articles and also these comments, they just pick and choose which one they want to make their story, whatever they want to make their story about. You know, they could say, for example, you've seen a lot of articles saying Brisbane is now overtaken Melbourne. Yes, if you use CoreLogic, but if you use statistical domain, it certainly has not happened, right? So you ask yourself, why did they not use these two data places, but they decide to use this one? It's because they want to make some sort of headline about Brisbane, right? If they're actually honest about it, they should reference it and say, it's only based on these numbers, CoreLogic's, but domain says something else. But then how do you create a story out of that when they're actually confusing? That's why, to me, when I look at these, I don't even like showing it really too much on any webinars that I do, not that much. I don't concentrate on it. That's why Josh asked the question, how much does actually matter when you're looking at these numbers? To me, all I see is how much each of these data centers look at the median house price. So that's one key thing you guys have to know. Every data place in Australia is different. That's why it's so frustrating. There is no single source of truth, in my opinion.
And the second thing is to be critical of what you read in the media, why you need to be careful of hotspots and property predictions.
This came out, a couple of days ago. Top 5 suburbs in Australia for price growth in the last 12 months are in Perth. So if you read this, would you now consider Perth as the place to invest? Now, you look at Maddington, for example. Technically, in 10 years, really, it's only grown less than 100 grand. There's been a huge period here of significant negative growth. Again, similar. Look at all these suburbs in the same period. We're talking from 6 to 10% negative growth in consecutive years. And what you'll notice, it's all just coming back to what the price was about 10 years ago. But why did this one have such massive growth? Well, number one, this is what they bought. How did this sell for 560?
Renovation.
You got to renovate, guys. And this, to me, and this is my assumption, this would need a massive full renovation. A lot of these properties that were bought for 350 needed extensive renovation to make it 560. They don't tell you that. So if you just saw this on its own, without actually looking about what happened here, you could say this area, there's properties here that grow at nearly 60%. Some people here made 200,000 in 1 year. So do you guys see what I'm saying now? So just be wary when you're looking at these numbers and growth rates. It doesn't tell you the full picture. So when they tell us about this area has done 25%, the top 5 suburbs in Australia has done this. Well, they've basically, all the 5 suburbs they talked about have basically gone back to the similar price they were 10 years ago.
Now, the third thing is that it's really all about people when it comes to property. You can't have property without people. So it's really important to understand where people are going and where they're choosing to live and how that affects growth in those areas.
When you see articles, for example, in Perth, even Brisbane, about population, yes, it has grown. If you look at which actual state had the highest amount of new residents that came in, it's actually Victoria. What a lot of these articles mention is the rate of growth, which is WA's 3.3, Victoria 2.9, Queensland 2.7. That doesn't matter to me too much. What I want to see is the amount of people that is coming. So if we're talking about which state has the largest amount of new migrants it is Victoria. And I've said this on many of my webinars. It is New South Wales and Victoria where the majority of new migrants come into Australia. That is why, in my opinion, they're the two that have median house prices over the $1 million, because they have the largest base of population. When all this migration happens and comes to Melbourne, you think about majority have to become renters when they come to Australia. You give them 2 to 3 years, they would have built up enough deposit and they will buy a home. And you want to be in a place where it's got the most amount of people wanting to buy a home. So just keep that in the back of your mind, guys. I always ask myself, out of all these capital cities, in the next 10 years, which one is the next capital city that you believe will hit $1.5 million median house price? My belief is going to be Melbourne.
The fourth thing is all about who decides how you make money from property. It's a topic that I've always had an interest in. Have you ever wondered, whenever you buy a property, what actually determines value in that property? What actually determines how you make money? We're going to be revealing that in this next section.
So how do you make money in property? Number one, you have to sell it. So let's keep selling on the side, because everyone knows to make money, you have to sell it to get your money back. Selling to me is a long-term strategy. It's the end game. Okay. It's not something that you want to buy now, sell the next year, buy another one, sell. That's flipping. Selling, just remember, is the end game. Now keep that in mind, because I want to talk about valuation. Okay. And this is what matters the most. Who decides this number that it's worth 680? There's got to be someone that makes this decision. Have you guys heard of these companies here? There's a lot of you guys that actually have never even heard of these companies. Yeah. Yet, these are the companies that ultimately make the decision whether your property has grown or not. It's not the bank. The bank has to randomly allocate to one of these companies. These valuers don't go off and say, hey, PropTrack or Domain said Perth gone up 3.8%. They don't do that. Okay. That's why I say it's not that important, because all those articles that you find are not the decision maker on it, whether you make money or not.
And lastly, number 5 is all about you. Why you are the most important part of your success. It's not the property, it's not the strategy, it's not the research or the data. The most important part is you, your mindset, and what you do with what you have.
I hope you guys see what I see is you're playing it like a business. You're not emotionally attached to a certain state. You're not emotionally attached to a certain suburb. You're doing it because the numbers work for you to help you get to this stage here. Can you see yourself in this position, getting $1,000 a week with a total equity of your properties of $2 million and having no debt? That is what you're trying to do. That is the end game. My advice is don't try to go for that big 1 year, hey, this is going to grow 200,000. You just stick to the fundamentals. The 3 Ps for you: progress, that's your mindset; your finance, keep making progress on that; the perseverance, which is your commitment to the goal; and then patience, time in the market.
So I hope you enjoyed that preview of the recent webinar that we did. Now, look, if you want to watch the full thing, all you have to do is check somewhere below or above this video, and you'll be taken to another page where you can watch the full 2-hour workshop, where you'll be able to get everything that we taught during that workshop. So look, I hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, I'll see you next time.